I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors over at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals. We couldn't be luckier to have these guys on board with us. I personally use these products, and you should too. Find out more about them at jimdunlop.com. Let's get on to the podcast. Hey guys, this is Zach from the Anti-Heroes podcast, and I want to welcome our newest sponsor to the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Can you believe that? Anti-Heroes listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/antiheroes. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/antiheroes. Thank you so much, and support all the folks at DistroKid because they're doing amazing work, and we couldn't be happier to have them on board. Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the Anti-Heroes podcast with your host, Zach Blair. I am Zach Blair. Hey there, how you doing? Thank you for tuning in. I've got a great episode for you today. Today, I get to talk to Tommy Meehan. Tommy, for those who don't know, Tommy is the new guitar player in Gwar, my old alma mater. I've talked about it 1,000 times on here. I've talked it as nauseum. If you've listened to this podcast, you know this about me. I've had Michael Dirks, the long-serving guitar player that is currently in Gwar, has always been in Gwar, and Tommy's the new guy. After me, which was, I left the band in 2002, there was Corey Smoot, R.I.P., and then there was Brent Purgeson, and Brent has left recently, and now Tommy is the new guy. And Tommy comes from a band called Cancer Christ and another band called Squid Pisser, which check out both bands. They're just mind-blowing and amazing. And Tommy is a player unto himself. Like I tell him, it's really hard to do something original in metal, in any art form, really. But man, he has such a voice. And I can't even compare it to anything. I won't compare it to anything because I think that would be a disservice to Tommy. But he's just got a huge heart. He's such a great guy. He reached out to me as a fan of Gwar on social media before, and we became friends. I thought it was really interesting. He scored music for the Cartoon Network and was sending me all of his bands and stuff. And we became friends. And I knew that one of his bands toured with Gwar, and I saw that they would have him up on stage and play. And I just mentioned to Michael Dirks one day, they were looking for a player. Mike had asked me if I knew of anybody. I unfortunately couldn't do it because, I'm in Rise Against and we're forever busy. I was tempted though. I was tempted because it would be fun to go back and play in a costume again. And I love those gentlemen so much. But I mentioned Tommy, and that turns out they were already thinking about him. And so he is now in Gwar. He is Grodius Maximus. He has his new character, his own character, which for a fan of the band just is a dream come true. And we get to talk about that. We get to talk about his gear choices and just talk about him. So I'm going to shut up and I will get into my interview with Tommy Meehan.
Zach, what's up, dude?
How you doing, buddy? I've probably already done a crazy big long intro and introduced you and stuff, but congratulations on the Gwar gig. That's awesome.
Yeah, insane.
It is insane. And my heart goes out to you because, as I've said 1,000 times, one Gwar show is like a week's worth of regular shows.
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. Currently, you are in 3 active bands. One being Cancer Christ, one being Squid Pisser, one being Gwar. All 3 bands you wear a mask. I think that's commendable.
I mean, it's a lot. You're like you said, it's like you feel it after, even if it's just a half an hour long set. But I want to feel like I did something. I don't want to come off not sweating. I don't want to come off not disgusting. I don't want to go onto stage not disgusting. Like there's something about like putting on these clothes or whatever that haven't been washed in 3 weeks or maybe ever. And it's like, okay, now I'm just this slimy thing. And you really get in the headset. And that's what you want to like, because you want to be otherworldly when you're putting on a show, I feel like. And that's something that I think I learned from Gwar when I was like a teenager, right? Like I came and saw them. I'm like, what are these beings?
Right.
You know, like,
Right.
And yeah, I think that it just planted this seed like so deep inside me that like, I kind of, it's always resonated into everything I've ever done pretty
Right.
much.
I agree with you there. Like, I never wanted to, when bands are on stage and they just look like the guy standing next to you, it's like, give them something to look at, give them something to sort of fantasize about, give them an escape, you know?
Yeah, that's always how I've looked at it. Because every time I've gone to go see a show, it's like, especially I was like really poor growing up and didn't have a lot to look forward to. So it's like if Guar or somebody came around, it's like I just want to be like whisked away from reality for like
Sure.
an hour.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And why not, even with, like, say, Rise Against, for me, I still put on something before I go on stage. I play dress up as much as I can, whether it's just black clothing or whatever, just something that makes me stand out and look a little different, not what I wore that day or whatever it might be.
Yeah, yeah. Get in the mindset like you're doing something special.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's back up a bit. So when did you start playing guitar, and like who were your guys back then? Who got you started doing all this?
So I think I was like 8 or 7. My parents weren't really into music, so it was like a lot of baseball radio that my dad would have on. And
Right.
and I remember like the first time hearing music really, I was like on a field trip to San Francisco. I'm from the Bay Area in a school bus, and this kid next to me had a Walkman, and it was Crisscross. Do you remember
Yeah, oh,
Crisscross
yeah,
Jump
yeah.
Jump?
Yeah, they wore the backwards clothing.
Yeah, and I was like, "What is this?" Like, it was kind of the first time I ever like listened and paid attention to music. It was just like one. This kid's. We were sharing it, so it was like one speaker, and I was like really impacted. I was like, "This is awesome!" Like, and these kids are like 11. I think I could do some stuff. Like, I want to explore this realm. So that was kind of like my first experience with music, really. Like, kind of late in the game at 8 years old. But then, I think the next thing was like Green Day.
Right.
It was like 94 or something like that. Like Dookie had just come out. So, and then it was Silverchair. Do you remember
Oh,
Silverchair?
yeah, Australian. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think something too that resonated with me. Like they were younger, they were like teenagers. So I was
Right.
like, okay, this like seems attainable to some degree. But then it was many more years before I ever like got a guitar. We couldn't afford one or anything like that. And I wanted to play the drums originally, but we lived in apartments and stuff like that. So it was like not going to happen. So yeah, eventually I got a guitar, and then I didn't know anybody who played or anything like that. So it was just like fiddling around and trying to emulate whatever I heard on whatever cassette tapes or CDs that I had, and doing it unsuccessfully,
Right.
but developing some kind of thing of my own over time. And then that was it. I didn't really have anybody that I played with that taught me or anything like that at all.
Well, I think that might have been what informed how unique you are and how different of a voice you have. It's really easy, I guess, in most genres of music, but it's really easy, especially in metal, for sameness. Do you know what I mean? To like really just kind of sound like everybody else. It can be very homogenized. And I think that's true in any art, but you definitely stand out. You don't sound like other metal guitar players. And that's why I think it's been so beneficial that Guar has you. They needed somebody different, they needed an interesting voice. And like I said before we started, I think that even resonates in your guitar choices nowadays. Like I noticed you had that electrical guitar company, RD Artist, that Chrome thing with sort of like a weird jazz master tailpiece and tremolo. And that's not a
So,
conventional metal guitar. That seems like a hard guitar to play. I have electrical guitar company guitar here actually. And
oh, sick.
they're hard to fucking play. They're like Excalibur. They're so goddamn heavy. So do you think that was intentional on your part to sort of no, I'm going to sort of do something different in this medium?
Yeah, I think always like kind of subverting and juxtaposing with things that, like you said, are kind of more homogenized and typical or expected. It's always kind of more fun. I mean, like you're scanning, there's static, and then something pops out at you, and you're like, "Oh, what's up? What's going on over here?" And it's like
Right.
really tough to pop out when so many people are doing the same thing, like you said. So I don't know. Yeah, and those choices just kind of like pop out to me as like it's very flashy stuff, right?
Sure.
That catches my eye. I mean, like that was one thing kind of with Guar, or kind of most bands. It's like there needs to be something unique or like interesting about it that catches my eye. And those are the bands that I get really into. So yeah, I guess guitar choices, it's a similar thing. I mean, yeah, I got a bunch of wacky looking guitars and a bunch
That's
of
good.
hot pink things and
That's
stuff. Yeah, it's fun.
that's
Yeah.
great. When did you get introduced to Guar? What era was that?
I remember my very first memory was Jerry Springer. I was like,
Yeah.
11 or 12. So I was home watching TV a lot, small town in Northern California. And then I had a kid in my middle school. We went to this place called Watts Music in Novato, California. And it's not something I'm proud of. I was there when this kid in my middle school, he stole from this mom and pop music shop who I love. And I love the guy, Darren, who owns the place. But he stole a copy of Scum Dogs. And we were like, oh, he put it in his back. Got Scum Dogs. We heard about this Gwar band and we went and checked it out. And that was the very first time that I had heard the band. And it was that was jarring too, speaking of like juxtaposing and subverting expectations, because I was like, that's going to sound so mean and evil.
Yeah.
And then it was like Sick of You. And I'm like, whoa, interesting.
Yeah.
Not what I was expecting.
Wow. That's, it's funny. I joined Gwar right after like a lot of the cool stuff had happened. Jerry Springer had happened, like the Empire Records thing had happened. So, my era was like 98, 99. And I was, like I said, I was like 24 or something. And so like all the really cool stuff had happened, So people would ask me, well, you on Jerry Springer? Were you in Empire Records? Like, fuck, no, it was before my time.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. Well, so in the chronology, did Cancer Christ started first and then Squid Pisser? Is that correct?
Squid Pisser was like, I was working on demos for Squid Pisser around the same time, like just before Cancer Christ. It was like pandemic. I was doing this band called the Manx for like 10 years. And then like right before the pandemic, I was like, it wasn't as like intense or aggressive, I should say. So I'd been meaning to do something more aggressive for 20 years, kind of like the Squid Pisser band had been in my head for like the last 20 years to try and start getting off the ground. But The problem was always finding a drummer that could like do what I envisioned, which is like pretty intense.
It's really intense.
Specific. Yeah. So I found Seth, and that was kind of like, okay, I can finally kind of start to do Squid Pisser now, I think. And that was, right before Cancer Christ. But it coincided around the same time. I just had like all this creative drive. I met St. Anthony from Cancer Christ a few years before we started it. And we were doing projects together. And then he was coming over to my house all the time. And we just started talking about ideas for things. We're like, yeah, we could do this band. And we kind of came up with the whole concept before there was ever even any music or anything. And then I started demoing stuff. I shot him over to him. And but they both kind of started at just about the exact same time.
Is it hard to juggle all three bands?
There's definitely like, I wish I had an assistant every single day, to be like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Because it's one thing just doing the things that need to be done for each band. It's another like to switch gears and be like, wait, is that taken care of? Okay, now I'm putting on a different thinking cap. So it is difficult. It's challenging, but it's also super rewarding. And it's also like, what else would I rather be doing?
Right. Yeah, and because, Gwar never was a year-round band. You know what I mean? It never was like, when I joined Rise Against it, that was like 2 months out, a week at home, another 6 weeks out, a week at home. That was, and that's just how it is. And Gwar was never like that. It was so, hard to mount a tour because of all the moving parts and things involved, that for a guy like yourself, you do have time to do other projects, and it seems like you've attained the sort of brass ring of being a musician, which is this is all you do, which is all that I ever wanted to do with my life. I never wanted to work a day job. I just wanted to play music. And so you did it, you're doing it. And with such cool music, I've checked out all your bands, and it's all so cool, man.
Thanks. Yeah. And you too. I mean, you started doing it when did you start going on tour?
Oh God. 17, 18. Like for a living, for like just making a living doing it. Yeah. So it's been, I don't know, 32 years, something like that. I don't know, man. It's nuts.
Yeah.
And it's, Gwar to Rise Against, but it's funny, all the bands and all the things I've done, I'll be in any sort of given social function. And this will happen to you too, I'm sure, where it's like, they ask what I do for a living. I'm like, oh, I'm in a band called Rise Against. And people are like, oh, cool. I might have heard that. A lot of people go Rise Against the Machine, which is like, it just makes me want to fucking slap them.
Yeah.
And then I go, but I was in that thing Gwar, and everybody goes, oh my God, dude, you were in Gwar. Everyone to the person, to the fucking person.
Yeah. Everybody's heard of Gwar.
Everybody's heard of Gwar.
Yeah.
And so they created a new character for you, which is Grodius Maximus, which I think is fucking so cool. I think your character looks so cool as well. And I mean, I like that they're doing that. They killed off Flatus, which I was a Flatus. Then Corey that replaced me, but Corey Smoot died, and they killed off the character. Brent got his own character, Brent Purgeson, and that was Pustulus. And now you've got your own character, and I just think that's so cool. Was that just such an honor to you after being such a fan?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, like, it's still hitting me at certain times throughout the day. Like, I was laying in bed a few nights ago and I'm like dozing in and out, it's just fucking so, it's so trippy because like Gwar's been my favorite band since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And then like, I'll just have weird moments of like clarity on it where I'm like, but it doesn't feel real. It doesn't seem like it's like possible somehow. It's like being in your favorite movie,
right,
or something.
Right.
Like, how does that possible? Or I'll be on stage and I'll be playing whatever, like getting ready to do the Immoral Corruptor solo or something, and then like look up and be like, it says Gwar right there. Like, it's totally trippy. Like, not to fanboy too much, but like, it's a trip, man. It's awesome. I don't know how was it for you, like, joining? Did you have those same, like, moments, or what? Was it just a whirlwind, or what? Like, it sounded like it was a whirlwind for you.
It was a whirlwind, and I didn't expect... Here's the thing. I didn't expect to get the gig because I had been in a punk band throughout the 90s called Hagfish with my brother, and the Descendants guys produced us, so I was in a totally different world, but I was a thrash metal kid. Thrash metal and metal music always did for me like what people say Dylan or something did for them. It always hit me in such a way that it spoke to me because I was a hyperactive ADD child, and this music, I felt like I was seen. And so I had been in thrash metal bands, and then my brother and I started our band Hagfish that became successful. And that's what I did for, the entirety of the 90s. I toured the world with that band. And we broke up. And Casey Orr, who lived in Dallas, he was like, man, we're looking for a guitar player. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get this gig. But if you guys want to audition me and fly me out, I'm going to take it seriously. And let's go. And I auditioned with Corey Smoot, actually. Corey was there too. And they had me learn so many songs. I went through like 4. And Brocky was fucking with me the whole time and doing this character and being real stern and like, kind of coming over, putting his head in my cabinet and listening when I would do solos and stuff. And I was just like, I'm not getting this gig. They were like, okay. And they left the room and they came back and they all hugged me and like, you got the gig, And so it seems like between that and the first show it felt like a day, but they had to my head was much bigger than Pete Lee's. Like, my head is huge. And so they make me new costume pieces. And then I remember just walking by a mirror and seeing myself like with the big Flatus flipper feet and shit. And was just like, that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my God, this is insane.
Wow.
That's funny. You mentioned the Immortal Corruptor solo too, because I was just listening to that record the other day and that solo is so long. It's 2 parts. And I remember being self-conscious about it at the time because I did the first part of it and I kind of looked around and it was Brocky and Dirks. And I was like, was that all right? They're like, go, keep going. Like, because it does the part. Immortal. Because that's playing. And I was still live. They didn't stop me between those 2 sections. And I was just kind of, I just winged it. And I was like, was that good? They were like, yeah, it's good. Keep going. I was like, all right. And then the second part came in and we got to the end. I was like, They're like, yeah, dude, I think you did it. I was like, okay, all right,
Yes.
Yeah,
wow. That's awesome.
That's such a fun solo. That's such a fun record, man. I'm so proud of that record. Of however many records I've made, that's definitely up there in the top 5, that record.
Dude.
Yeah.
Man, it's one of the most impactful for me. That was the first time I had seen Gwar was for that tour.
No
like,
shit.
Yeah. That was maybe the Blood Drive tour.
Yep.
I think so. I think it was early 2002. I went to the Phoenix Theater. Do you remember playing that
Yes.
place?
Okay. So that was right. I quit after that tour. The first American tour of Violence Has Arrived was the Blood Drive. Somebody came out and recorded one of those shows and it was on Vimeo for a long time. And it's like a few camera angles and somebody told me about it. And But anyway, I quit that summer after that tour. So shit, that was your first Gwar show?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like Gwar was like less cartoony, revamped,
Yeah.
bigger odorous spikes. Like everything was kind of meaner feeling, and like it just like blew my socks off.
That was the whole point. It was like I remember Casey and I, it's in the documentary, but I remember us being like, dude, no more characters, no more extraneous, convoluted story. Let's just make a metal record of focus and like go out there and just do it. That's crazy. Your first Gwar show was me. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if it was this show. It might have been the next year or something, but I specifically remember this like gag with Flatus where there was like applause and you were kind of like doing this
Yes.
thing with your hand.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
me.
You're like,
Yeah. And I was doing that. And it was before we would do Lixor,
oh, fuck.
right? Because it was like
Yeah.
I would do the thing and then everybody and they would play the cheering over the yes.
Dude, it's so crazy. I remember that.
That's crazy.
Like, wow, yeah.
It's in that video too. It's in that if you find that, it's on YouTube. I think it's like the Blood Drive 2002. That whole
I'm sure I've seen it. Maybe I haven't. Yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Badass. And then you guys had Mike Tyson,
Yep.
right? And then Lacey Peterson. Was that Lacey Peterson?
Lace, yes, I believe it was Lacey Peterson as well. Fuck, dude, we killed. There were so many like characters like that, but I know Mike Tyson was Mike Tyson. Maybe Marilyn Manson at the time too.
I was like, that might have been We Kill Everything, I think. I don't remember seeing Marilyn Manson.
Oh, big, yeah,
But,
that was, yeah, because they had recorded We Kill Everything and I toured. They had just recorded it and that's when I joined. We toured We Kill Everything, made Violence Has Arrived. And then during Violence Has Arrived touring, I was, for other reasons, I was just like, whoa, I got to get out of here. But man, that's just so cool. That's so fucking cool. I'm just so happy you're in the band. I'm so glad for them because I still love them so much. I love those guys so much,
Yeah.
What a great
Yeah. It's been really cool getting on with them and stuff. I stayed at Brad's house this last time I was in Richmond. I'm going to go back next month to start writing stuff and right before this tour. And yeah, it's been great getting to get closer with all of those guys. Matt McGuire's like one of the sweetest, like whimsical, amazing dudes I've ever met. Like,
yeah,
all those guys.
Bobby, just all of them, man. They're like an art rock band, like an SST band, or one of the early like real punk rock bands, or the art rock movement. Like in New York City, but they're a metal band. Each of them have their own discernible way they play. From Casey Orr to Mike Bishop as a bassist, and all of them just have such a different way and something they add to the band. Like what an interesting band they are,
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So what gear are you using on this last tour that you just did? I noticed you have a penchant for the BC Rich Ironbird, which is funny because I used to draw BC Rich guitars when I was a kid, like on my notebook and stuff, like Mockingbirds and Ironbirds and stuff.
Those are the cool ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of trying to do what's right for the character. And like, I knew we did War Is All We Know from Beyond Hell. So I was like, oh, it'd be cool to get a white guitar and then cover it with blood because the cover's white and there's blood. And so just little things like that are like, I'd never played an Ironbird before. I was just like, Grodius needs to have this for that tour and I can like fuck it up and like thrash it and maybe smash it one day. I don't know. Like it's fun to just like get a bunch of different guitars and swap out for different songs and stuff. Yeah.
Do you think you're the type of guy that would go with one company like Dirks with Schecter or whatever, or are you just not that type of guy?
I don't know. Like it seems tempting because like, it'd be cool to get some help from like a company or something, and like get some kind of sponsorship. But like at the same time, yeah, it's tough because I want to just a little taste of everything, and like wear many different hats. I mean, that's kind of like part of my personality anyways. It's like I have to kind of have several projects at once. It's tough for me to just stick to one thing. In general, I like variety.
I love that. And, it's like when you and me first, you reached out to me or on social media and we sort of made that bond where it was like, yes, I'm in Rise Against and that is definitely a discernible sound. But I love the fact that, I still am a metalhead. I still do write with Gwar or whatever. And I still have the Draculas, which is the synth, garagey, punky, post-punk thing that I do. I think that's just what keeps me interested in going, and we smell our own, you can tell you're the same type of guy. You also told me back then you had scored for Adult Swim and cartoons and things like that. Are you still having a chance to do that, or what was that all about?
Man, yeah. So I did that for like 10 years working for a Cartoon Network and like Titmouse, another animation studio. I was at Warner Brothers. So I did anything from like animatic editing to like flash cleanup, which is like vectorizing artwork that could be used in animation and stuff, like to dialogue editor, all kinds of stuff. And then at a certain point, some of like the showrunners and stuff, in particular, this dude, Pete Browngardt, who he created Uncle Grandpa, this show on Cartoon Network for kids.
Yeah.
Or it's like for like younger kids, but it's super wacky, but they needed a music composer. And I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. And he gave me a shot, and like I had never done it before. I didn't even know how to use MIDI or anything or like DAWs. I was like very kind of old school, but I'm like, I'm gonna fucking get a computer and learn how to do this. So
Right.
And I did, and I figured it out. And like every season, I thought he was gonna get rid of me because I had imposter syndrome, just full on. I'm like, I don't belong here. This is insane.
Right.
And eventually, I was like, oh, I think I'm doing a good job. It's all
Right.
good. But then I was working in offices or my own office, and I was just in front of a computer all the time. I'm like, man, that's not what I was put on this earth to do. Like, that's not why I moved to LA. I had this draw and this itch to like go play guitar in a band. And
Right.
so I eventually came to that conclusion. But it took a long time to kind of like transition into that. But then the animation industry started drawing up. I don't know if you've heard about like strikes and like acquisition stuff. Yeah. Cartoon Network, the building. I'm in Los Angeles and Burbank's over here where I'm pointing. And there was like this big Cartoon Network building, and it was there for many years. And like it's iconic. Downtown Burbank. And it's not even there anymore. Like,
wow.
They're not even. Yeah, it's like it's some other like Hollywood production or something like that, just some no name thing. But yeah, so the animation industry is kind of weird and funky right now. So I guess I kind of chose a good time to kind of put all my chips on the table with all this rock band stuff.
Right.
And it's kind of working out.
That's amazing. That's good. It's like you said you wanted to play guitar in a band. It's almost like careful what you wish for, because man, you got it in threefold. You know, it's crazy, but you deserve it. It's awesome. Do you know? So with each band, does it sort of dictate your gear choices, or do you kind of take the same thing with each band?
Let's see. Well, if I'm playing guitar, so I'm singing in Squid Pisser. I wrote all the guitar, I tracked it all and stuff, and it's very much like my flavor and style and stuff. But that said, our guitar players are using like my pedals and stuff when they're on the road. So yeah, it's every band I've done, I've had like my pedal board, which is kind of like all this zany, wacky, noisy, glitchy stuff. And that's kind of like if I had a signature sound, a lot of it's because of that. And, you know, the chord choices or whatever, the weird stuff that I'm doing. But yeah, in terms of gear, it is very much that, except for with Gwar, because I just kind of had to like slip in and assimilate really quickly. It's like I get wah and I get delay at this point. And that's a lot of people that came before me were using, all the Maximus members. So like,
yeah, I used a Crybaby in that band, and that was it. I didn't even use, well, at one point I had a triple rectifier, and I would just use the red channel for the lead boost, and then Crybaby. But then at one point I got this Marshall JMP head that had been hot rodded that I still have, that actually I've used on every Rise Against record. But yeah, not much effects at all. It was always a Crybaby, because Pete had always used one before me, so I was just trying to ape Pete, you know. But
right. Yeah, and then like a few generations down the line, that's like where I'm at too.
Yeah.
Corey was all over with the wah too. Some harmonizer stuff here and there. Well, we're using a Kemper live.
I was about to ask, what are you using there?
Yeah, and that's like, I'd like to sort that out. Like, I'm used to using tube amps. Like, I have an orange dual dark that I've been using. I have this Varellin. I also have a rectifier, and I'd like to kind of like figure out how to incorporate my own rig into Gwar. But right now at this point, it's like a lot of stuff's going through the computer, you know, and there's like MIDI things being triggered, and I got these big feet, so it's tough to like manually switch stuff up at this point. But that's kind of like on the horizon for how to figure stuff out. What about you? You're using tube amps and stuff, right? You don't use in-ears, huh?
Yes.
Or you don't have
we do. So it's funny you should ask, because we did tube amps up until very recently, up until just about last year, and then we went to Kemper's, and I have recently gone to Quad Cortex. Here's the thing with us. Quad Cortex works if you want to put that unit in front of you, the actual unit itself, because it has, the pedal, so the switches on it. Or it works if you're time coded and you have everything printed to a click, and which I guess Gwar is as well now, right?
Yeah, so everything's kind of coming through, Ableton.
Gotcha.
And yeah, so I don't know when they started doing that.
Dirks has always been like on the forefront of whatever technology is happening. I remember in my day with him, he was using like the Mesa Triaxis, which was like their MIDI thing back then.
Dude.
And I was just a Luddite, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of more my approach too. But it's funny, speaking of unsung heroes, you had mentioned like Casey and then also Brad. I mean, like Dirks, like people don't realize how weird of a guitar player he is.
Oh my God. Like. He can play such mathy, turned around, intricate, like difficult stuff. And in such a good, he has such a good phrasing about it. Like he is such a good, no matter how hard that riff is, Dirks can get his head around it, you know?
Yeah. Really tasty, really bizarre, unique stuff. And then like he's into all kinds of weird effects and stuff too. Like the stuff that's coming out, I'm like, I didn't realize, and I pay attention to shit, but like once I started playing with him, I'm like, man, this guy's like on some whole other kind of like,
well, you know, he wasn't into metal when he joined Gwar. He was into art rock and Talking Heads and shit, and like D Boon from Minutemen, and you know, Adrian Belew and King Crimson.
Yeah,
he said like the only time he had really listened to thrash metal was She Watched Channel Zero by Public Enemy, which is a sample of a Slayer riff. So that's what he knew.
Okay.
It's like, wow. Jesus Christ. But anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, and the problem I'm running into with the Quad Cortex is we don't time code anything. Rise Against does not. We don't play to tracks. We don't have any of that shit. We are 4 guys playing live on stage. And the Quad Cortex works great if you have it behind you, if you're time coded, all that. If you don't do that, it works if it's in front of you. But putting it in front of you, it's a small unit, and it's really hard to step on each little individual switch. So I was like, I have an RJM Mastermind, which is the big MIDI switcher. You know, I already had one because I was using it to switch just regular pedals. Like it's good. Like if you program it to do like, I want my lead boost and my delay and my chorus on all at once, you can press one switch and blah, blah, blah. It's like a Bob Bradshaw box. So I've been trying to get the goddamn RJM Mastermind to talk to the Quad Cortex, and they don't want to talk very well. My tech is having the hardest problem with it. So right now I'm doing this redundant thing where I'm playing through a Quad Cortex, but I have an analog pedal board out in front of me, you know?
Oh, okay.
Which is, cool. I don't use anything boutiquey. I have like a Klon KTR, but I have a Boss pedals and MXR, who sponsor this show, carbon copy delays and, you know, MXR Phase 90 on every board. And all of those pedals are in the fucking Quad Cortex, but I can't get the goddamn Mastermind to talk to. Anyway, Dirks could probably just fucking do it immediately, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you running analog pedals in front of you?
Not yet. It's something I'm trying to figure out, because at this point, if I wanted to, it would be an extra 100 feet of cable.
Sure.
So we're trying to figure that out.
So your crybaby, your tones, like if you go for a crybaby in a solo, that's time coded. That's just happening while you're playing.
Well, I have a foot switch.
You do have an expression pedal. Okay.
Yeah, that come over and it's always ready to go. But yeah, my delay, it's just my delay and boosts that are like where the solos are.
Wow.
But Eddie, our guitar tech, during the Immortal Corruptor solo, I'll get like on the ego riser there, and Eddie will masterfully with his hand use another expression pedal to like hit me with all that wah stuff when I'm away from the wah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, dude, it's funny you asked that, because we just got with the times last year. And I didn't have a problem with the Kempers at all. Tim, our singer, he's using the RJM Mastermind with the Kemper, and to great effect. It's great. The folks at Quad Cortex were just good to me, and they wanted to work with me. And I'm just having problems getting that thing, because Quad Cortex don't have like an outside switching unit. They only have their own box. Like, I wish they would just make an external switching, like with the MIDI cable, all that shit like that you could put out in front of you, right. like Fractal have or like Kemper have, but they just don't have that yet.
Right. People are going to ask for them enough. They'll see this and then they'll start.
They're going to see this. Yeah. Hopefully this is going to make them do that. So let's talk about a little bit. We talked before we got on about the Radical Instrument products or productions or, the Rip guitars. I've been watching some of your stuff, and man, those are such cool looking guitars.
Yeah. That's Rob out in Salt Lake City making those Rip guitars. And, I'm just always seeing the stuff he's doing. He does a lot of like crackle finish stuff, and they play super. I mean, I've never had a guitar that plays that smoothly. And then also, I never really played a Floyd Rose. I mean, I always avoided them my whole life. I was like, I can't. What if I lose the little block?
Right.
What if I lose one? then I'm done. So I don't want to deal with that. And I have to have an Allen wrench. It's annoying. But with Gwar, I'm like, okay, I guess I got to like grow up. Yeah. And get to it. But this one feels so great. And I've never had one that feels like this before. So I really love it. He's making me a new guitar right now. I should have it for this fall Gwar run that we're doing. And then, man, I'd love to, because we haven't met in person. So like you should come to a Gwar show or whatever. Whenever we're in the same town, we got to meet up.
I would love to. We got to meet in IRL. Do you think that you'll be using the new RIP guitar and the BC Rich, or are you just gonna maybe be using only the RIPs?
I'm not sure. Like at this point, I have like 4 guitars in Richmond.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of decide during the rehearsals like what I can get away with, and like because I was using this Mockingbird. And there's no Floyd Rose on it. This like stupid see-through. Those are fun. We were using that for Fish Fuck.
Oh yeah. That's weird. You're playing Fish Fuck. Holy shit.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. It made me think of the fucking an animal video. I don't know why it made me think of that, but yeah.
You were in that one, right?
Yeah.
Were you in that?
That's me.
And Funny Bong too. Nitro
yeah,
Burning Funny Bong?
and the Nitro Burning Funny Bong. Yeah. I was a chubby kid too. I was like, I have like, body dysmorphia. And so when I watch those videos, I'm always just like, oh God, it just triggers me. As I was always chubby and anyway, so it's another whole story.
I know how it goes.
Yeah, you know, man, it sucks. Well, in Gwar too, you're up there like half naked, you're like, for me, it was like, I was like, this is out of my comfort zone on so many levels,
Did it help you like psychologically or like, moving forward? Did you like face your fear and conquer it after it? Or do you feel better or what?
That's such a good question. No, it's such a good question. It did temporarily because it was like it or not. I mean, you just got to do it. And at the time, well, not the time. I mean, we still do, you do the grease paint muscles, you kind of paint a 6-pack on or whatever. And I remember one of my friends coming out going, dude, you're ripped. And I was like, no, it's fucking paint. But it did for a bit. And then afterwards, I think retroactively, I did go down a spiral with my own sort of like body image and shit. We're going to turn this into a therapy podcast, but it's important to talk about this stuff. It really is.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was so inspired by people like Brocky, who just did not give a shit. He was just such a live wire and such a raw nerve constantly that it was just like, well, he doesn't give a fuck. Fuck it. I'm going to go out there and just rip it and do whatever. And it's like, I was not Dave Brocky. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's only one of those guys. That's for sure. But it was an interesting situation because not ever before or since have I been on stage with my midriff showing. It just never happened.
Right.
So at least I have that.
That's funny. Yeah. For me, it's been very like natural because like, I've just always done like hot pants or whatever, like little short, sparkly short, or just like Speedos or whatever. Like, so it doesn't even feel like I'm like kind of covered up with Gwar actually.
That's
anything.
True.
Like,
That's true, actually. Yeah.
Man, and then just those shoulder pads, you'll just be like drenched with sweat. I don't know if you remember.
And you can't wash them. Brocky and I shared, like we had a case together, like his stuff would go in and my stuff would go in. And there would be maggots and shit. Like
I heard about that.
It's disgusting, dude. It's disgusting. It's funny in Squid Pisser. I didn't realize you sang only in Squid Pisser because you guys all wear masks, so I couldn't tell which one was which and who was who. That's interesting. That's really cool. Do you appreciate getting the break from playing guitar for a show?
Yeah, definitely. I'm starting to embrace it. It was definitely a thing that I never really planned on doing, but because we found 2 guitar players before I found a vocalist for this project, and because I did all the vocals on the record, I was like, I'll try and do frontman stuff. Let's see how it is. And at first you're like, what do I do with my hands? I'm used to it's a different thing, but I'm starting to embrace it and feeling free. Have you ever like fronted a band without a guitar or anything like that?
I've never done it without a guitar. And like I've like gone on stage in the 90s. Hackfish toured with All, and I would go on stage and sing some Descendants songs with them. And that was so fucking weird, I don't think I've really done it since, just singing with a band and not doing anything else. It's so odd. It's so fucking weird.
You gotta get used to it.
You have your guitar to hide behind, you know what I mean? Or you have the band to turn around to or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. It is weird. It's like you have something to focus on, something to direct your energy toward. But then without that, I don't know. I'm figuring it out. I'm finding things to do. I'm just like, will
Squid Pisser have a tour coming up or anything like that? I know it's Cancer Christ kind of tour. you're going out with Gwar, right? Cancer Christ.
Yeah. So that's been really lucky. I've been really fortunate and like grateful that Gwar has been down to take my other bands out, because that's how we got to know each other, as Cancer Christ and going out. And then Squid Pisser was just on like a 10-day run with Gwar. And then Guar's going to Europe for 3 days in August. We need to book tickets right now, actually, to get over there. And then, or today. And then, Cancer Christ will go out in September. And then Squid Pisser is doing like a full October to November thing with Dark Funeral and Gwar. And,
I saw that.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. I'm really grateful again. I think, there were a lot of like meetings of like, okay, what bands do we take? And should we take Tommy's band? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome. But like, no pressure. I don't want to shoehorn myself in, And I feel like it was Dirks every time was just like, no, let's bring Squid Pisser. I just feel like, I don't know why, but I just felt like, I just appreciate Dirks.
Hey, I do too. And it's kind of rad because all of your bands could tour with Gwar, and because you wear a different mask in every band, no one would know. You know what I mean? Like as long as you're up for it, it's kind of like, oh, fuck it,
Yeah. Oh man, it's a lot, dude. Those guys are doing it with ex-cops these days too, a bunch. It's just like, and man, have you ever done double duty before?
I've definitely done double duty. I've done shows like festivals where Dracula's would play, like a Riot Fest, and then Rise Against headline that night. I've never really done it with Gwar. I definitely didn't do it with Gwar, but it's a lot. It is a lot. You do think you're up for it, and it's fine. It's going to be easy, but I did it for like a show where actually Hagfish. It was like for the Blasting Room, the studio we've all recorded at forever, and Hagfish played a set and Rise Against played a set. So I did that. I want to say I did one where it was like I did 3 sets, and I don't remember who it was with because I've always just done so much fucking bullshit. But yeah,
right, bunch of bullshit. Well, it's like sound check.
Yeah.
And then like, there's no time to rest. It's like the whole day is just
not at all.
Up. Yeah,
not at all.
What else would you be doing?
What else are you gonna be doing? This is the best life in the world. So, have you ever had anything that got away? Have you ever gotten anything stolen or hawked? You ever had to hawk anything? Something that you wish you wanted to get back?
Gear stuff.
Yeah.
I know there's something. Maybe I'm okay with letting stuff go. Maybe there isn't anything.
That's an interesting choice.
No, I think everything, if it's something that I can't let go, I just haven't yet, Like I don't think so.
Wow.
I really don't think so. I always say that if I had one piece of gear, if I could only have one thing, I have this Moog Matriarch. Have you messed around with those analog synths? Man, I don't even need a guitar. Like if I just had to have one thing, Desert Island thing, it's this Moog Matriarch that I got like during the pandemic. It's like, I can just sit down at that thing for
Moog Matriarch. No shit.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's like paraphonic synthesizer with like it's semi-modular, but
wow.
I recommend playing with those. Those are really fun. Yeah.
So I'm always looking for stuff for Dracula. So like new sort of sequencers and things like that to get in touch with. So like the Moog Matriarch. Okay, I'll check it out. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's really fun. During the pandemic, I would just be sitting all day, just like going like 8 hours, just going nuts on it.
No shit.
Yeah.
Did that inform like Squid Pisser and things like that?
I've always been into like just kind of unique, odd, weird sci-fi sounds. So it's just like kind of made sense. But the Squid Pisser stuff is all guitar. There's no synth stuff.
Yeah.
But they sound like synth.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It does. That's what I was asking because it does. Yeah. I strongly suggest anybody listening to this check out the Squid Pisser stuff because the guitar stuff is so fucking insane that it does sound like it could be synth in places, or at least influenced by a sequencer spitting out cool, crazy, stuttery shit, and then you learn that on guitar, and that ends up being the riff,
Yeah, exactly. Wow. It's a lot of like more textures and stuff than actual riffs, which is just like a fun thing to play with. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear what you do with Gwar in the future. I'm still such a fan of the band. Of course, they're my family and I love them so much. And, maybe we'll get a chance to play together on a record, which would be awesome.
Dude. Yeah. I think that's imminent. Like, I feel like it's around the corner.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Dude. I haven't gotten to play with them or record with them since Battle Maximus. I got to write 6 songs on that record and play on 6 songs on that record. And that was Brocky's last record. And so I felt so awful that he got taken away from us, but I do feel so lucky that I got a chance to go back and do that. It's so special. Yeah. So I've really been chomping at the bit to go back and do it again. ever since then. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there'll be more Zach Blair in the Gwar realm.
yeah.
Were you Splatus on Battle
On
Maximus?
Battle
What was it?
Maximus, I was Splatus, and that was so quick. They were like, oh, "Hey, you got to have a Maximus name." I was like, Splatus," and then I was like, "Why? Why hasn't there been a Splatus? Like Splatus, that's great, you know." I guess we're all cousins of Flatus, or are we? I think my character was his brother. Are you a cousin?
Wow.
Is Grodius a cousin, or what are you?
I think we're from the part of the same clan, and I came when the Horn of Hate the Horn of Hate was called in 2013. All the Maximus members came.
Yes.
I was supposed to come record on Battle Maximus, but I took a detour and landed in Los Angeles, and I've been here murdering the housewives of Beverly Hills and surfing and smoking weed, I guess, and
As you do.
doing whatever. Yeah.
As you do. Yeah. Okay. Well, I really don't know the backstory of Splatus, but I need to get to the bottom because I know Pustulus was supposed to be his cousin. So who fucking knows? I think since I was a Flatus, then I was like, well, I'm at least a family member. I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna have to make it up if I'm gonna come back and do it. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Am I gonna plan another record? We'll see. Well, anyway, man, I will talk to you soon, dude. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're amazing, dude. Keep killing it, man. You've been so sweet. I just wanted to say, I think I reached out just as a nerdy fan a few years ago, and you've always been so cool and open and welcome and just embracing of my enthusiasm and stuff. And I just having me on it, everything feels so full circle, and I feel really grateful that.
Well, Tommy, that means a whole lot. And we smell our own. I could tell what kind of a person you are. You seem like you had a big heart, and you seem like you really wanted all this. You deserve all this, and you're such a great fucking player. They couldn't have gotten a better player. They're lucky to have you, and I'm lucky to know you. And man, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Thanks, man. Excited to hang in person sometime soon.
Yeah, talk soon.
Later.
Wasn't he great? That is a guy that wears his heart on his shirt sleeves, all of his influences. You can tell he loves doing this. He loves being a part of all of this and adding his own voice to it. You can tell this is a guy that's going to be doing it his whole life for a long time. Or I think we're going to hear a lot out of Tommy Meehan. And I'm really looking forward to hearing his contribution with Gwar, this institution that I love so much. And as you heard right there, folks, we might be doing some stuff together involving Gwar. I can't talk about it too much, but we'll see. Again, check out his bands. Check out Squid Pisser. Check out Cancer Christ. Definitely check out Gwar. And check out Tommy. What an amazing, lovely guy. I feel like I've known him forever. And I look forward to meeting him in real life. And as you heard, we will be doing that soon. I'm going to leave you with a wonderful example of Tommy's work. I can't even explain it. This is Squid Pisser, the song Virus Assholes, which is just a great name for a band and a song. And this is off their Dreams of Puke record that just came out. Again, I can't even explain Squid Pisser. It sounds like three amazing bands kind of all playing at the same time, but it doesn't somehow sound that in your head. Now you're imagining that's just going to sound like a big mess, and it doesn't. I don't know how they manage to do it. I don't know how he manages to write this stuff. I don't know how a band manages to pull this off, but listen for yourself. It's nothing short of amazing. Also, for extra credit, check out Tommy's other band, Cancer Christ, and check out their song Prosperity Preacher. Also an amazing, amazing band. At the end, I'm going to thank Tommy for his time. Thank you so much, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. And I'm going to thank the lovely, wonderful folks over at Jim Dunlop and MXR Pedals. Check out what they're doing at jimdunlop.com. Also, the people at DistroKid. They're helping us, the artists, the musicians, get our stuff on the streaming platforms without the middleman. They're doing amazing work, and check out what they're doing. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. I'm going to keep talking to guitar players about nerdy guitar stuff and this wonderful thing that we've all dedicated our lives to. Thank you for dedicating your hour to me. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon.